Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Things Metaphysical. I was waiting for it to actually say live.
Uh,
Hi, everybody. Welcome to All Things Metaphysical podcast. It has been a hot minute since Kelly and I have done a podcast. So
Yep.
we thought that tonight was a good time to do another one. We've discussed it, and we're probably going to do it about once a month now.
Yep.
Sometimes maybe more, sometimes maybe less, but at least once a month. And today, in case you're watching this, it took place on 3/27/24. Anything you want to say to start off, Kelly? I'm just going to make sure we're live.
Yeah, no, we are live. It says it's live. I don't know. I mean, we can certainly talk about some of the funky energy that's been around. Um, Everyone that I've spoken with in over the last week or so has either been in tears or maniacally laughing. It's been one extreme or the other, and it's been sort of it's hard on me because I struggle to stay balanced anyway. But it's been interesting. Been interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a new moon. We had the full moon on the 25th.
Yeah,
We're having some kind of eclipse soon, too, right?
yeah. We had one,
Easter.
the lunar eclipse the other night. Yeah, and then now there's another one coming up. It's just the energies are all over the place. There's just no rhyme or reason to it. I have to turn down my speaker. There we go.
So if you're watching us live, please feel free to put comments in the comments section. If you're watching us on StreamYard, I don't know if you're watching us on YouTube, if I can see the comments if you put them in. But, I just think that there has been so much going on. Everyone, like you said, everyone I know has had so much happening, whether it was with themselves, whether it's with loved ones. Orbs tonight. There's been
Yeah,
lots of orbs flying by me already tonight. And before we even started, you had a fun experience asking
yeah,
me at a window.
yeah. It really did look like there was like car headlights or a helicopter coming in or something back there. It's just this big light. Fun stuff.
Hmm. So I feel like people lately too that I've been talking to have been getting new guides.
Hmm.
There's lots of new teachers coming. There's also, let's not forget about the solar flares, which adds a ton of stuff and new energy coming to the planet. March has been fun.
Not really. Not really. No, it's. I have had more weird personal experiences during this month than I can remember having
Mhm.
in a very, very long time. I have been encountering very dark entities, very odd energies that I'm unfamiliar with. There are different species of multidimensional beings that are here now. And I think they have been here. They've just now started letting people see them. But
Mhm.
I've had several frantic phone calls from clients going, "What was that?" So all kinds of stuff is happening. Yeah, it's just sort of, try to keep your balance, not
I
get caught up in it.
I also feel like people are having a lot of things from the past come up in dreams. A lot
Hmm.
of transmuting going on, a lot of transformation
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
And I think that it's just been a really interesting time to be alive on this planet as we go through this shift. I think, oh, I guess I'm jumping right in and going there. Yes,
Yeah, do it.
I guess we need to talk about, that we're kind of still in the battle of light versus dark.
Very much so.
Dark is still trying to control us and manipulate us and doing upping the ante to what it used to do before.
Yeah,
Whereas a
yeah,
lot of us want to move into the fifth dimension, which is where we're going. And so it's just been a lot for a lot of people.
yeah, yeah. Well, I can tell you personally, I've done hundreds of paranormal investigations. Right now, I have scratches all the way down my back, 3 long scratches. And that has not happened to me in many, many, many years.
Hmm.
And that is happening to other people as well, people that I know, people that I've recently been in contact with. One person who happens to be a clergy member said, what is happening in the church he works with is people are coming to him saying, I'm having this dream, and this was somebody I knew 30 years ago, and they were trying to kill me in my dream. And it's always something very graphic and very, not very nice. And that is his takeaway is that's good versus evil right there.
Hmm.
They're trying to attack people in dreams and taking loved ones. In one woman's case, it was someone who had passed years ago, and this person was trying to kill her in a dream. A very strange thing happening with UFO, UAP, whatever you want to call them. People are having the same dream. UFO contactees that I've been in touch with recently, in different areas of the country, they do not know each other, had the same dream where they were in some high-rise building trying to hide from an ET race that was shooting people and vaporizing them. And they were in a high rise, and every time somebody moved, the ship would come right to the window and start shooting. For people to have that in different parts of the country where they don't know each other, I found that very fascinating.
That is kind of interesting. I was, you know, as so I'm working on a new book. I haven't written a book
Yay.
in a while. So I'm working on a new book. I was writing one of the chapters today, and they were talking about the movie Arrival. I had to
Hmm.
look up the name of the movie because I couldn't remember. I mean, they were showing me the scenes from the movie,
Right,
but I couldn't remember the name of the movie. Because when I write, they like to give me references that other people can relate to,
right.
so that like the whoever's going to end up reading it can understand the complex concept that they're talking about. So it was just really interesting because in that movie, they had to learn the language of these beings
Yeah.
in order to communicate with them. Because this was on the chapter on sacred geometry that I was writing, because everyone keeps asking me what sacred geometry really means. And so it was just really interesting the analogies they were giving me to explain it to other people.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's been a lot of really interesting stuff lately. So I think people like us are kind of catching the brunt of a
Mhm.
lot of this. I have my own experiences, and then I have other people who call me to interpret their experiences too. So it's been a lot. It's been a lot. But somebody commented on seeing shadows.
Mhm.
That's really prevalent lately, is people seeing shadows. And I have my own theory on shadow people. I do believe they are a multidimensional species most of the time is what we're seeing. I Did you hear that? That
Mhm.
was weird. I just had a voice come through my speaker and I turned it down. So there, but I do think they
Welcome
are
to our podcast, people. If you are just tuning in, weird things happen. You'll see orbs flying all around my head or bright lights coming from behind me. You'll hear voices coming out of Kelly's speakers. So we just kind of roll with it.
it's just
One of
every once in a while they want to say hi.
one of our viewers heard it. I think was talking, so I didn't
Yeah.
hear.
No, yeah, I heard someone say hi. And I'm like, okay. You did hear it. Yeah, people are hearing. It was weird, and it came out of that speaker that I just turned off. So, just so you know, it's not
Each
connected.
one of our loved ones wanted to say hi while we're doing the podcast. Um, so yeah.
Oh, it, but it is a lot of paranormal, a lot of multidimensional activity is increasing.
Mhm.
And there's just not a lot that we can do about it except just write it out. You
Mhm.
know, keep open minded enough that you can see what it really is. Tune into yourself because you have a really good gauge already inside you. You know, you feel it if
Mhm.
something's off. And you can feel the difference between I am afraid of this or that's bad.
Well,
You you know.
I think one of the ways for me that I differentiate, I think it's funny because when I got dressed today that I'm wearing Metatron colors, which I thought was hysterical after my night last night. But anyway, I just thought that was funny. That I'm like, oh, I have to wear magenta today. But okay. Um, where was I going with that? Oh, so we were talking about light and dark. Dark usually comes with a sense of fear or
Yeah,
gloom. When it's something of the light, it's usually more loving, more kind. So that's a really kind of cool way to tell if it's like a trickster or if it's something truly of the light. I think it's really important for our viewers to kind of explain that difference.
right.
Because oftentimes we so want to connect with things that if we start hearing something, it's like, oh my God, finally, I'm hearing something. But if it's something that's causing you to have doubt or make you do things you normally wouldn't do, or things like that, it is not something of the light. So
Right.
I
Right.
just think it's really important to clarify that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people interpret shadow beings. I do think they're their own race. Um, as something dark or malevolent, and they're not always. It's
Hmm.
just like any other race. There, you're going to have good ones, you're going to have bad ones. But what you can do is ask. They have to tell you. That's the thing with shadow beings. They have to tell you. You know, you can say, "Are you a kind, benevolent being?" And they have to answer you. And you can also tell them to leave. And if you do it forcefully, not aggressively, not I'm going to shoot you or something aggressive because that wouldn't work anyway. But if as long as you are assertive
Mhm.
in a kind way, you they will listen to you. They will leave. I've seen it happen. I've seen it where people will just say, "No, you have to go now," and they do.
Mhm.
Um, and if they don't, there are higher up beings that you can invoke to make them move along. The shadow people in my mind is the one that most people, when I'm called for paranormal investigation, that is the number one thing that people are afraid of, and that is the least of your worries, truly.
Every
So
time you say shadow, they keep singing me and my shadow in my head. So thank you for that. I'll be singing that the rest of the evening.
well, on a recent investigation there was a shadow being who was a spirit. It was a family member who had transitioned, but didn't have enough energy to come through and show herself as she was. All she could manage was here I am, here's a blob on the wall. And sometimes that happens too. So don't jump to conclusions that it's automatically a bad thing. Maybe, maybe it's not.
So, do any of our viewers who are currently watching have any questions for us? And just wanted to reiterate, in case people are tuning in the middle or things like that, that Kelly and I are going to be doing the podcast probably once a month, maybe the end of every month. That seems like the end of the month going into the new month, as opposed to that just feels more right to me than doing it at the beginning of the month.
Yeah.
So the last week or so of every month, we'll try and do a podcast.
Until we decide something else.
Because we're so good about just sticking to whatever we say. So, just to be clear, that we usually are just guided by spirit
Yep.
and our spirit guides. So, like, if they tell us that we need to come on and do a second podcast that month, we may show up and do another podcast. So, we're both pretty good at listening to what we need to do and what our roles are to help other people right now in this grand adventure on the third rock from the sun.
Yeah. Well, there is so much going on energetically. I wouldn't rule out, doing another show sooner than a month. Um, it really, there's just a lot happening. It's just an awful lot happening. And you just don't know. I think the best advice I can give anyone right now is try to keep your balance because it's really been all over the place.
It feels like in the beginning when I first started to get information, it was like, we're going to give you everything, and then it was like, hurry up and wait. Humanity's not ready yet. And I feel
Yeah,
like that's what there's this great push for all of us right now. And so I feel like that's the energy. It's like everyone has to break through stuff right now. We have to release so that we can all heal.
yeah,
Because really the fifth dimension is all about heart energy, and there's going to be more and that's what I think people are afraid of, is that everyone's going to know everything. And there's so many
yeah.
people who still want to hide and hide parts of themselves. So I don't know about for you, but one of the things that when you tell people that you're intuitive, or I don't always like to use the word psychic, but intuitive or psychic, they're like, oh my God, you can read my mind.
Right, right. Get that a lot. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm like, no, I can't really read your mind so much, but I can read your energy, which is worse than reading your mind.
Right. I've had someone say, don't look in her eyes, don't look in her eyes, I'm like, that's not the way it works, but all right, Um, where I live, I get a lot more of that than most people who would live in a bigger, more populated place. Um, Out here, people where I live is called Hippie Hill. That tells you something right there. Uh, but they don't know what to think of me. For a long time, I was happily masquerading as a real estate broker. And then when I started being more and more open with who I am, and people started looking at my social media, they went, oh, no, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm going to be over here, and I back away slowly. And at first, it bothered me because these were people that I'd always been friendly with when I lived here. But you cannot make someone understand or accept something. So eventually you just have to move on. But I think there's an awful lot of people right now who are afraid to come forward, who are afraid to be their authentic self because they're going to lose all of these little people around them. And that's very, very frightening for people. For me, it's happened so often in my life. I'm like, yeah, okay, bye. But it is a deterrent in people coming forward. I've had coaching clients who just absolutely refused to acknowledge that they had any gifts whatsoever because it would scare their family.
Mhm.
Well, that's a choice you have to make. It doesn't have to be scary. I think they're afraid of it because they will, you have to explain it to people. You can't walk around down the street and read everybody's thoughts as they walk by. But that is what people think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're never done learning our lessons, right? That's what being on earth is all about. It's about soul growth, and it's about learning the things that we need to learn, and the right people, I shouldn't say right, the people that we need for whichever part of the journey we are on will somehow miraculously show up in your life.
And they do. Yep,
And
they
they
do. They do.
like
They
I,
do.
I told the story before how I got to you because you published my first book.
Mhm.
And that's how it all started. And then you made me do some of your podcasts, which freaked me out to no end.
And here you are.
And here I am now. Can't shut me up even if you try.
It's funny how many people have told me that. I never would have done my show, but you made me do that podcast.
You didn't make me. You asked me if I would do it. And I believed I said, I'm not sure I want to do it. And you said it'll be really good for you.
It
And then
really
I'm talking about all kinds of things that I never thought that I would ever disclose. And that I know that in the second book, I'm like, Kelly, I don't want to put this out into the world. And you're like, um, Gail.
Yeah, that's I have been called a catalyst.
Uh,
by more people than I would have ever thought. Because I don't think of myself that way. But even earlier today, I was talking to the original Laylee supporter. Um, and she was telling me, I never would have taken that chance and applied for that big job if it hadn't been for you telling me to. I'm like, I didn't tell you you had to do it. She goes, but you did tell me I had to do it. I'm like, oh,
you know,
God.
and we hear what we need to hear to help us do what we need to do. Like,
Yeah.
I know you didn't make me do your podcast, but after the first one, I thought it was pretty fun. And then I did like other people's podcasts, and it's like, I guess I guess what I found out about myself by doing that is that it was very natural to me. Like, because some people freeze up when you ask questions, and you would ask me a question, and I'd just be off and running with no pausing, no anything.
It's, but that's what you needed. That's what you needed to do. And it's funny how that does happen because you do get the people in your life when you need
You
them.
just see that orb that
Yeah. 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 It is interesting. And lately, again, it seems like there's been a turnover in a lot of people's lives. Talking my daughter, she's like, the people that I'm close to right now, I didn't even know 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And that's just kind of the way it goes. When you're ready to grow past where you've been, you get a whole new cast of characters. It's like magic,
Mhm.
whether you want them or not.
There's
Yeah.
another orb gently floating by as you were talking about that.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk if there's anyone who's watching for the first time.
I'm really sorry. No,
I'm really sorry that you're watching this for the first time. But we think we're funny, and there's an orb show,
yeah.
and everyone's like, "It's dust, it's whatever." I'm like, "Dust does not move like that."
No, and that's what we get a lot in paranormal. You see orbs,
Mhm,
and okay, some of it might be a bug. Bugs generally go like this,
mhm.
continuing straight. They don't go, hey. And some of these orbs really do, and it's really
And
interesting.
as we're saying it, there's one flying by now. We have someone new watching us for the first time right now. So welcome to the orb party. They disappeared for a while, and I'm gonna just be honest about this. It made me really sad. So I asked them to come back because
That's
to
good.
me, it's a visual representation that we are not alone,
Yeah,
that there's energy all around us all the time. And so depending on what we talk about, they'll dive bomb my head. So it's just kind of fun.
yeah, yeah. It's interaction
Mhm.
with another dimension, and that's kind of the way I look at a lot of things, actually.
Yeah, so again, it's all fun. It's just, you know, to us, I'll speak for you if that's okay. Us,
Sure.
this is all normal stuff. And again, the reason that we started this podcast in the first place was because there are so many people besides us having these experiences, and no one is really willing to put themselves out there to talk about it, to normalize it. So we
Right.
nominated ourselves to do that. And that is why we are here,
Yep. Yep.
because it is all normal. The veil is so thin right now. Um, Connecting to the other side, so many people are having experiences or getting signs or having synchronicities because more and more it is becoming more conscious in our society that it's possible. So
Yeah.
now more people are starting to look for it and be aware of
Yeah. Yeah. And, the other day I had the funniest thing happen. I didn't intend it to happen, but I did think in my head, wouldn't it be funny if? And I went to the store, which I don't
it.
usually.
Never start with that.
No, I just don't go to the store. I just don't leave my house. And this woman was, I heard her just yelling at this poor guy who was trying to retrieve grocery carts. And I thought, oh, what a horrible, horrible thing to lay on him. And that's so wrong and everything. And, you know, she looked at me and she says, oh, I know who you are. And I'm like, uh-oh, should I run? You know, and she says, well, I guess I should ask for a sign. And the sign at the grocery cart thing fell. And I had just thought, wouldn't that be funny? And I said, ah, there's your sign. And it doesn't usually happen like that, but it did then. And it was so funny. And that poor kid, you know, that she was yelling at, he was just howling as he went away. But you have to take what is happening with a little bit of a sense of humor. You know, things are going to be weird, but the energies are weird. They're all over the place. Be careful when you find yourself reactive to what's going on. And I know that people who don't believe in energy are just as affected as those of us who know what's going on. And I know that was her problem, but I've seen it in other people too. So just be really careful. If you find yourself in a position where, why am I angry all of a sudden? It's probably not yours. It's probably energy, or you're picking up somebody else. So just be careful with that.
I think that most people have empathic abilities. I just
They,
think most people aren't aware that they have empathic abilities. So they're not aware with how quickly their energy can shift or their mood can shift depending on who they're around.
yeah, yeah. And I think sometimes people who do know they feel things don't want to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happening a lot these days too. But that's part of this whole energy is about healing. So more people are going to come forward with, hey, I can do that, or hey, I feel this, or just because that's humanity is healing. We are healing the past.
They're singing, they're singing Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. They think that's funny. The metaphysical jukebox is on. I will say I have had a reprieve for the last 2 days. They have not sang the song Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka in my head. So,
That's something.
because for like a month, they sang that song every day. And that for the last couple of days, I have not heard it. So I was very grateful that I got a reprieve. Yes, we all do have a biofield of energy around us, or like a force field.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they're showing me scenes from the very old movie from the 50s, Forbidden Planet.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah. They're showing me the force field of like the monster and trying to keep them on.
That was a good one. I have to watch that again.
That's a good movie.
It is.
And now I'm just seeing the lips from the Rocky Horror Picture Show sing that line.
Also a good movie.
You know, I've been writing, they've been all around. So, you know. So someone wrote, I was very drained one day last week, could not figure out why. Finally, it dawned on me my husband was way down energy wise and he was sucking my energy. I finally cut cords and had to go to bed. The following day, I had to tell him I love you dearly, but I can't deal with you and your energy today. He just kind of looked at me and his whole energy changed. Guess I needed to point that out to him.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes we do, you know, get to that point where you get so wrapped up in something that you're not aware of what it's doing to your energy.
Well, and how many times do you get a phone call and you look and see who's calling? It's like, oh my God, I don't want to take that phone call. I don't want to energetically get entangled with that person right now.
Yeah. Lately with me, it's because it is spring and I do have an animal rescue center, and I am besieged night and day with, I have these kittens, or I have these puppies. Oh, my dog had puppies. Gee, I wonder how that happened. You know, spay your animals. But, you know, I will look at the phone sometimes and go, no, I answered it this morning. I cannot take any more animals.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, you know, but it is a drain. And as much as I get from them, you
Mhm.
have to know your limits. And I had this big conversation with a bunch of animal rescue people. You have to know your limits.
Mhm.
If you know you cannot handle, 10 more puppies, you can't handle 10 more puppies. And I think sometimes in the spirit of we want to give, we feel like we need to give back. We do that to ourselves.
Mhm.
That was a really tough lesson for me to learn. And I think a lot of people are like that. You know,
Boundaries,
yeah,
when you're on the metaphysical path or spiritual path, whatever path you want to call it, people sometimes think it's wrong. Well, you're here to serve. You can't set boundaries. Well,
right, but you
if you
have to.
don't set boundaries, you're not going to have anything to give to serve.
No, mm-mm, you
Because you
have
have to have a certain amount of energy for yourself in order to function and thrive. So it's important to make sure that you're getting enough of what you need so that then you have something to give back to other people.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too about our viewers that are very drained. There's been so many energy shifts lately. A lot of people are really drained.
They're showing me Pong, but that's what's going on right now. It's slowly going over here, and then you hit it, and now it's going back over here. Then you
That's
hit
funny.
it, and now it's going back. And they said that's going to go on for a few more weeks.
That's funny. But that is kind of the way it's been.
I'm just sharing what images they're showing me because they're on a roll right now.
It's I don't think it's going to ease up anytime soon, unfortunately. I know that's a question I get constantly. When is it going to even out? Well, not right now. We just did, the full moon and that eclipse, and then we've got another one coming up, and it's just to go from a full moon eclipse to a new moon eclipse. It's really kind of weird. So that alone is going to make people you're either going to be overamped or you're going to be a slug. I mean, one
All
of the
right,
two.
they're still on the Pong reference, but you know how when you hit it back and forth, it slowly gets faster and faster,
Hmm.
and they're like, just wait
Yeah,
till you get to the point where the paddles just stay still and it just goes back and forth. That's what's going to happen. It's going to balance, and then we're
well,
going to get
it
used
has
to
to
it
balance.
going back and forth, and it's going to feel normal at that point. These energy shifts will feel normal again.
I don't know why I just heard this, that people need to be more conscious of the fact that love and light does not mean that everything's going to be beautiful. This is not a walk in the park. There's going to be bad days. It's going to be bad energy shifts. That's why when we talk about balance, we're not talking about the only balance over here where everything is wonderful. You have to have both sides of it. You
Mhm.
really do have to.
Well, because if you don't ever have the stuff that's not, what we would consider the good stuff, then how do you know it's good stuff? You have to
Right.
have something
Right.
to compare it to. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
Does anyone who's watching us right now have any other questions before we start to wrap up this fun podcast through wherever spirit has taken us?
it's always a journey and an adventure.
I really like the Pong analogy, though.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
They said thank you. Thank you very much. So, all right. If there are no other questions, thank you all. Thank you to our new viewer for tuning in tonight. It was nice to meet you. We'll hope to see you again. And if any questions come up that you want us to talk about on future podcasts, reach out to one of us.
Yep.
And we will happy to do that. Um, thank you very much. Enjoy
Thank
the rest of your evening. Bye, everybody.
you. Bye.